Robert?
No, let's be clear. I mean,
this performance was not good.
Let's split this into two things, because I want to build off something that Anna just said. If you turned on C-SPAN and hadn't watched TV in the intervening 6 years, you'd think we'd had 150,000 troops parked right now in Iraq. The next defense secretary is not going to deal with Iraq and the surge. This was a vanity thing for John McCain to try to prove to a former friend who disagreed with him that he was right on the surge and that Chuck Hagel was wrong.
What should Hagel have said? What would you have told Chuck Hagel to say in response?
I think he said correctly, we're going to let history judge Iraq, because quite frankly, Chuck Hagel could have said, you know, Senator McCain, I think I might have been wrong on Iraq. Were you wrong on Iraq? Here's the question. None of that is anything that the next Secretary of Defense is going to deal with. But hold on, let's split this into two buckets. So there was the totally superfluous questions that, quite frankly, again, not going to bear in big measure on what the next Defense Secretary does. The disconcerting thing, obviously, that for anybody that watched it, was he seemed unimpressive and unprepared on the questions that, quite frankly, he knew was coming.
He had mock hearings. Going to what David said, should he go to the president and say, you still have confidence in him?
Again, I'm reminded 3 weeks into the first term of the Obama administration, Tim Geithner gives a speech at the Treasury Department about our banking industry and how to save it. 3 weeks into the administration, 3 weeks into his tenure, the market dropped 382 points.
It wasn't a...
2 weeks ago, Tim Geithner walked out of the Treasury Department 4 years later as one of the most influential Treasury secretaries in the history of our country. So we get into all these kerfluffles about one hearing or a few answers. Chuck Hagel is an infantryman who's had to execute the orders of the Secretary of Defense and the Commander-in-Chief and understands what those people go through, and he's going to be a good Secretary of Defense.
Ralph, I know